Every bad habit you can't break began as a desperate attempt to feel safe. The late-night scrolling, the comfort food, the procrastination ... They weren't born from weakness. They were born from fear. And you will never be free until you understand what they are still protecting you from. There's a quieter, stronger way to build the life you want. A way that doesn't rely on brute force or motivation, that fades like a morning mist. It's a path walked by ancient thinkers, the Stoics, who understood that true power isn't about flexing a muscle called willpower. It's about building an inner fortress, stone by stone, until it becomes unshakable. This journey isn't about becoming a different person. It's about uncovering the person who has been there all along. Buried under the noise of modern life, there is a silent war being waged. In the hollows of 3 a.m., have you ever felt it? You're lying in bed, the house is still. The only light is the blue glow of the phone in your hand, casting long shadows across the room. It's in this quiet that the promise you made to yourself feels most real. Tomorrow, you whisper. Into the dark. Tomorrow, I will wake up early. I'll go for that run. I won't eat junk food. I will finally start writing that first page. In the stillness, the promise is a seed of hope. It feels clear, solid, possible. You can almost taste the victory. But then morning comes. The alarm screams, a brutal tear in the fabric of your warm, comfortable peace. A heavy fog rolls into your mind. The warmth of the duvet becomes a lid blanket, and the negotiation begins. A voice, slick and reasonable, starts to speak. Just 5 more minutes. You're too tired today. You can start tomorrow. One day won't make a difference. The craving calls, not as a shout, but as a comforting whisper. The phone screen lights up, promising a gentle slide into the day with easy dopamine. A soft distraction from the hard thing you promised to do. It feels like there are 2 wolves fighting inside you. One is lean, clear-eyed, and patient. It represents your higher self, the part of you that desires growth, discipline, and the deep satisfaction of a promise kept. The other wolf is starved and frantic. It lives for the immediate, for the sugar rush, the validation of a notification, the comfort of the path of least resistance. Most days, this second wolf wins. And the first wolf grows a little weaker, a little quieter. This is the deep, frustrating conflict. It's the feeling of being a stranger in your own mind, of watching your hands reach for the donut you swore you wouldn't eat. It's knowing exactly what you need to do, holding the map in your hands, yet watching your feet walk in the opposite direction. This creates a vicious cycle of guilt and shame. We turn the anger inward. We call ourselves lazy, weak, undisciplined. We feel powerless, like a ship without a rudder, tossed around by the currents of our own impulses. The real struggle isn't just failing to build a good habit. It's the slow, quiet erosion of self-trust that comes with each broken promise. We start to believe the story that we are incapable of change. What if that feeling of being stuck isn't the end of the story? What if it's the necessary beginning? This is the starting point of our journey. Not in a place of strength, but in that quiet, desperate feeling of being stuck. And from here, we can begin to build. We are drowning in an ocean of things that do not matter. This is our first lesson. We waste our life's energy, our precious willpower, fighting battles we were never meant to win. Picture yourself in your car, stuck in traffic. It's a complete standstill. You were supposed to be somewhere 10 minutes ago. The sun is beating down on the dashboard, making the air thick and hot. A low, repetitive beat thumps from the car next to you. You feel a tightness in your chest. Your knuckles are white on the steering wheel. You have the utterly useless primal urge to slam on the horn, as if the sound alone could part the sea of cars before you. You feel rage. You feel powerless. You feel trapped. You are trying to control the traffic. You are trying to bend the world to your will. and the world does not care. It will not bend. This feeling, this helpless anger, is the feeling of our entire lives when we misplace our focus. We try to control what others think of us, whether we get the promotion, whether our health holds up, whether the rain will spoil our plans. We exhaust ourselves wrestling with the wind. This is where we meet a man named Epictetus. He was born a slave in the Roman Empire. He knew what it meant to have his body, his freedom, his daily life completely owned by another. And yet, he became one of the most powerful teachers of his time. He found a freedom no one could take from him. His central teaching, the key that unlocked his own cage, was breathtakingly simple. He said, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us." What is up to us? Our thoughts, our judgments, our intentions, the choices we make from one moment to the next. That's it. That is our entire kingdom. What is not up to? US, everything else. The traffic, the weather, the economy, other people's opinions, the outcomes of our best efforts. This isn't a call to be passive. It is a call to be incredibly ruthlessly strategic. It is a call to surrender what you cannot control. This is not weakness. It is the highest form of wisdom. Think of an archer. Her task is to shoot a distant target. She can control the quality of her bow. She can control the straightness of the arrow. She can control her stance, her breath, the tension in the string as she draws it back. She can control the precise moment of release. Her entire focus, her entire world, is in that perfect execution. But once the arrow leaves the bow, it is no longer hers. It belongs to the wind, to the humidity, to gravity, to any unseen branch that might lie in its path. The unskilled archer screams at the wind. The master archer focuses only on perfecting her release. She has done her part. The rest is not her concern. How much of your day is spent screaming at the wind? How much of your energy is wasted trying to steer the arrow after it has already flown? What would happen if, in that traffic jam, you took a deep breath and let go? If you released your white-knuckled grip on the wheel and said to yourself, "This traffic is not mine to control, but my response to it? That is mine." You could listen to a podcast. You could call a friend. You could practice breathing. You could simply observe the anger within you without judgment and let it pass. This is the first, most profound shift. It is a movement from anxious, grasping control to a state of calm liberation. You stop pouring your life force into things you can't change. You redirect all of that power, all of that focus, onto the tiny kingdom you command, your next choice. Your willpower is no longer a scattered, frantic force. It becomes a calm, focused, precise instrument. And in that quiet, you find peace. Your mind is a sky, but you are not the clouds that pass through it. The second principle is about learning to watch the weather of your own mind without being swept away by the storm. An impression, in Stoic terms, is any thought, feeling, or urge that appears in your awareness. It's the sudden sharp craving for a cigarette. It's the jolt of anxiety when your boss sends an email with no subject line. It's the phantom vibration of the phone in your pocket and the immediate, powerful urge to check it. Let's stay with that phone. The buzz happens. What happens next? For most of us, it's not a choice, it's a reflex. An invisible string pulls our hand to our pocket. We don't decide to check it, we are compelled. The impression isn't just a suggestion. It feels like a command from a higher authority. Our mind instantly weaves a story around it. This could be important. This could be the validation I've been waiting for. This could be my escape from this moment of boredom or difficulty. We are hijacked. We become puppets, and our random impulses are the puppeteers. The emotional conflict here is feeling out of control in your own head. It's the sense that you are a slave to every random signal your brain produces. An anxious thought appears, and you believe it's a prophecy of doom. A craving appears, and you believe it's a truth about what you need. The Stoic resolution comes to us again from Epictetus. He offered his students a simple, powerful practice. When an impression arises, he said, you must pause and speak to it. Say, you are just an impression, and not at all what you appear to be. Don't fight it. Don't wrestle it to the ground. Don't try to violently suppress it. That only gives it more power. Just see it, acknowledge it, and label it for what it is. A cloud passing through the sky of your mind. The metaphor is that of a gatekeeper at a fortress. Imagine an old wise guard standing at the gate of a great walled city. This city is your mind. Outside the walls, a noisy, chaotic world bustles with travelers, urges, fears, opinions. The gatekeeper's job is not to go out and fight every traveler. His job is not to silence the world. His job is simply to stand his post. He observes each person who approaches. He asks their business. And he alone decides who is allowed to enter the city. Most impressions are just harmless travelers. They are not enemies. You can observe them, nod, and simply let them pass by without opening the gate. When your phone buzzes and the impression screams, "Check me now," the untrained mind flings the gate open. The Stoic mind, the trained mind, pauses. It looks at the urge and says, "Hello, urge. I see you. You are an impression. You feel very important right now, but you are not a command. I will check the phone later, at a time that I choose." Could it be that an urge is not a command, but simply a suggestion from a tired, worried part of your mind? Who is the you that notices the urge? In that moment of noticing, you create a space, a tiny gap between the stimulus and the response. And in that gap lies your entire freedom. You realize you are not the thought. You are the one who notices the thought. You are not the cloud. You are the sky. This is the shift from impulsive reaction to conscious response. It's the moment you take your hand off the panic button. You stop being a slave to the buzz, the ping, the craving. You become the gatekeeper of your own peace. And in that stillness, you can finally choose your own direction. Most of our plans are born in sunlight and die in the first shadow. Our willpower fails not because the challenge is too great, but because we are surprised by it. This principle is about learning to love the shadows. We decide to finally start a diet. We fill the fridge with healthy food. We feel pure and motivated. Then we walk into the office on Tuesday morning, and there's a box of fresh donuts on the kitchen counter. We are shocked. We feel ambushed, betrayed by the universe. Our resolve, which was built for a world without donuts, crumbles. Or we commit to waking up at 5 a.m. We set the alarm, full of heroic intention. Then the alarm goes off, and we are shocked by how warm the bed is and how cold the floor is. We didn't plan for this feeling. Our naive optimism is the enemy. We plan for the best-case scenario and then feel personally victimized by reality. This feeling of being blindsided by life drains our resolve. Frustration is an expensive emotion. It costs us the very energy we need to stick to our plan. The Stoic resolution is a practice that sounds dark, but is profoundly empowering. Premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. The great Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most powerful man in the world, did not start his day with positive affirmations. He started his day by writing in his private journal. He would write something like this: "Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness." He wasn't being negative. He was being prepared. He was arming himself. You don't just visualize success. You visualize the obstacles with just as much clarity. Seneca, another great Stoic, wrote that the unexpected blow lands heaviest. By expecting difficulty, you rob it of its power to shock you. You strip away the surprise, and what's left is just the thing itself. which is almost always more manageable than our panicked reaction to it. The metaphor is that of a seasoned sailor. A new sailor might look at the calm morning sea and hope. It stays that way forever. The seasoned sailor knows better. She doesn't just hope for a calm sea. She prepares for a storm. She checks the ropes. She knows where the life vests are. She studies the charts and knows her route through treacherous waters. So when the sky darkens and the waves begin to swell, she is not surprised. She does not scream at the heavens, "Why me?" She is not demoralized. She is ready. She meets the storm with calm competence, because she has already met it 100 times in her mind. Let's revisit the gym. The naive plan is simply, I'll go to the gym after work. The Stoic plan sounds like this. Okay, I am going to the gym after work. At 5 p.m., my brain will tell me I'm tired. My colleague might ask me to stay late to help with something. It might be raining and the traffic will be bad. To prepare for this, I will pack my gym bag the night before and put it on the passenger seat of my car. I will have a healthy snack at 3 p.m. so my energy isn't low. I will tell my colleague in the morning that I have a hard stop at 5, and if I get there and still feel exhausted, I will give myself permission to do just 15 minutes. The goal is not to have a perfect workout. The goal is to show up. Do you see the difference? It is the shift from fragile hope to resilient preparedness. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are a strategist. You have anticipated the ambush. You have planned for the friction. What if your failures are not a sign of weakness, but simply a sign of poor planning? What if you could meet every obstacle with the calm recognition of a strategist who says, "Ah, yes, I've been expecting you." But what about the obstacles you cannot plan for? What happens when you do your best, you plan for every contingency, and you still fail? When the storm is not just a passing squall, but a hurricane that wrecks your ship entirely. A business you poured your soul into fails. You receive a frightening health diagnosis. Someone you love breaks their promise to you. This is the point where willpower often dies completely, not in a flame of frustration, but in the cold, deep water of bitterness and regret. The emotional conflict is a war against reality itself. We get stuck in the past, replaying what happened, torturing ourselves with the words, should have, and if only. We ask, why me? This internal war against what drains every ounce of our energy, leaving nothing for what comes next. The Stoic resolution here is perhaps the most difficult and the most beautiful of all their teachings. It is the practice of Amor Fati, a love of one's fate. The phrase was coined by the philosopher Nietzsche centuries later, but the idea is purely Stoic. It is the practice of not just accepting what happens, not just enduring it, but loving it, welcoming it. Marcus Aurelius gave us the image for this. He said that a blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. He taught us to see every obstacle not as an impediment, but as fuel for the fire of our own spirit. Whatever gets in the way becomes the way. You don't just tolerate your fate. You embrace it as the perfect, custom-designed raw material for practicing virtue and growing stronger. The metaphor is a blacksmith's fire. You can throw anything into that fire. A piece of brittle iron, a chunk of jagged scrap metal. It doesn't matter. The fire doesn't complain about the quality of its fuel. It consumes it all and transforms it into heat and light. It uses the material to forge something new, something stronger, something more refined. An obstacle is not just something to get over. It is the very thing that can forge you. Think of being stuck in a job you truly dislike. The typical response is misery, complaint, quiet desperation. It's a slow poisoning of the soul. The Amor Fati response is to see this unwanted situation as a training ground, a gymnasium for the soul. This difficult boss is the perfect opportunity to practice patience. This mind-numbingly boring work is the perfect opportunity to practice finding meaning in small details to practice diligence. This daily frustration is the fuel I need to build my skills in the evening so I can finally leave. The situation doesn't change. The fire is still hot, but your relationship to it is transformed. Could it be that the worst things that have happened to you are not curses, but assignments? What if you chose to believe that every single event in your life is here to teach you something you need to learn? This is the great shift from bitter resentment to a powerful creative acceptance. You stop seeing the universe as something happening to you and start seeing it as something happening for you. It is no longer against you. It is providing you with the exact challenges you need to become the person you are meant to be. The obstacle is the path. You learn to love it. Our peace of mind is the most fragile thing in the world because we have been taught to build it on foundations of sand. We believe we need the world outside to be quiet, for the world inside to be calm. Think of a normal workday. You sit down at your desk with a clear intention to focus on one important task for the next hour. You take a sip of coffee. You open the document, and then it begins. An email notification flashes in the corner of your screen. A team chat message pings, marked urgent. Your phone buzzes on the table, a text from a family member. Another ping, another email. The open plan office around you is a low hum of chatter and phone calls. Suddenly, you are not one person doing one task. You are a dozen people, being pulled in a dozen different directions. Your focus is shattered into 1,000 tiny pieces. Your breath becomes shallow. A low-grade panic begins to set in, the feeling of being overwhelmed, of drowning in the demands of others. The emotional conflict here is feeling scattered, thin, and utterly dependent on your environment for your own state of mind. We feel that. Our inner peace is a hostage to external chaos. When the world is loud and demanding, our minds become loud and demanding. Our resolve to stick to our own goals, our own promises, is washed away in the flood. The Stoic resolution is to stop building on sand and start building on bedrock. And that bedrock is inside you. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor, a man whose days were filled with the chaos of ruling an empire, wrote constantly in his journal about his secret weapon. He called it the inner citadel. He reminded himself, men seek retreats for themselves, houses in the country, seashores, and mountains. But this is an indication of the most common sort of men, for it is in your power whenever you choose to retire into yourself. Peace is not a place you go to. It is a place you create within. This inner citadel is a fortress in your own mind. A quiet, vaulted room you can retreat to at any moment, no matter what storms are raging outside. It is built through small moments of reflection, through journaling, through quiet contemplation. The metaphor is that of a deep, still lake. On a windy day, the surface of the lake can be a frenzy of choppy waves. But if you were to sink down into its depths, just a few feet below the surface, you would find it as perfectly still, calm, undisturbed. Your daily life is the surface, whipped up by the winds of circumstance. Your inner citadel is the silent, peaceful depth. You just have to remember you can go there. So, when you're at your desk and the pings and emails and demands are flooding in, what if you didn't just react? What if, for 60 seconds, you simply closed your eyes? You don't try to solve the problems. You just retreat. You take 3 slow, deep breaths. You sink below the choppy surface of your anxiety and into the silent depths of your inner citadel. In that minute, you change nothing about the world outside, but you change everything about the state from which you choose to meet it. Have you ever tried to access this place? Do you believe it exists within you, waiting? This is the emotional shift from external dependency to internal sovereignty. You realize that you have the key to your own peace. You don't need the world to be quiet. You just need to remember how to access the quiet within you. And from that quiet fortress, you can act with clarity, purpose, and an unshakable calm. We do not become disciplined in a vacuum. We become a reflection of the rooms we choose to sit in. Your willpower is not just your own. It is a shared resource, strengthened or weakened by the company you keep. Picture this. You've made a firm decision to improve your finances and drink less. You feel clear and motivated. Then Friday comes and the group chat lights up. Drinks. At that new expensive cocktail bar tonight. Immediately, there is a conflict. A tension between your desire for personal growth and your deep human need for belonging. You know that if you go, you will likely spend too much and drink more than you planned. The environment is designed for that exact outcome. But if you say no, you fear the consequences, the gentle mocking, the feeling of being left out, the slow drift away from your friends. So you go, and you compromise. Just one drink becomes two. You tell yourself you'll get back on track tomorrow. This is the quiet, slow erosion of our willpower by 1,000 small social cuts. We water down our ambitions to fit in. We blunt the edges of our discipline so as not to appear too sharp, too different. We absorb the habits, attitudes, and limitations of those around us as if by osmosis. The Stoic resolution is not to become a hermit, but to become an intentional curator of your social life. Seneca wrote letters to his friend Lucilius, urging him to be ruthless in this regard. "Avoid the crowd," he said. "I never bring back home the same character that I took with me." He understood that we are fundamentally porous beings. We cannot help but be changed by our interactions. Therefore, we must choose them as carefully as we would choose the food we eat or the air we breathe. The metaphor is that of a room full of mirrors. The people you surround yourself with are living mirrors, reflecting a version of yourself back at you. If you spend your time in a room of cracked, distorted, or cloudy mirrors, the reflection you see will be fragmented and unclear. You will start to believe that this broken image is who you are. But if you choose to enter a room of clean, polished mirrors, they will reflect your potential, your strength, and your clarity back at you. They will show you who you could be. So if you want to be healthier, you must spend time with people who treat their bodies with respect. If you want to be more focused, you must seek out those who value deep work. This doesn't necessarily mean abandoning old friends. It means taking the lead. Suggest a hike instead of a bar. Start a book club. And it also means having the courage to seek out new relationships that align with the person you want to become. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? Are their mirrors helping you see yourself more clearly, or are they distorting the view? What one small change could you make to the rooms you sit in this week? The emotional shift is from passive social conformity to intentional association. You stop being a sponge, passively absorbing whatever is around you, and you become an architect. You understand that your relationships are a critical part of the foundation upon which your inner fortress is built. You choose your mirrors wisely. The moment most resolutions die is not in the face of temptation, but in the aftermath of failure. It's the voice that comes after the slip-up, and it is the most brutal enemy of your will. Imagine you've been eating perfectly for a week. You feel proud, clean, in control. Then you go to an office party, and without really thinking about it, you eat a large piece of cake. The taste is gone in a minute, but the feeling that follows can last for days. A hot flush of shame. And then the voice begins. "See, you can't do this. You always fail. You have no discipline." It's a voice of cruel perfectionism. And it's a liar. It tells you that this one mistake has invalidated the entire week of effort. It says the only logical thing to do now is to give up completely. The diet is ruined, it says. You might as well eat the whole cake. Start again. On Monday, the emotional conflict is this destructive, all-or-nothing mindset. We believe that progress must be a perfect, unbroken line. One single dip, one step backward, is not seen as a minor event. We interpret it as a final judgment on our character. This profound shame is what keeps us from getting back on track immediately. We'd rather wait for the illusion of a fresh start than face the discomfort of being imperfect. The Stoic resolution is to fire your inner critic and hire an inner teacher. You must learn to treat yourself not as a flawed master, but as a dedicated student. Seneca often wrote about philosophy as a form of medicine, and ourselves as patients in need of healing. A good doctor doesn't scream at a patient if their fever spikes. A good teacher doesn't call a student a failure for getting a math problem wrong. The teacher says, "Good effort. Now let's look at where you went wrong so we can fix it for next time." You must become your own compassionate teacher. The most powerful metaphor for this is a child learning to walk. The toddler pulls herself up, takes one wobbly step, and then falls. She might cry for a moment, but it never occurs to her or her parents that this fall is a moral failure. It is not a sign that she is broken or incapable. It is simply part of the process. She will fall 100 times, 1,000 times. Each fall is just a data point, a lesson in balance and gravity that her body is learning from. The goal is not to never fall. The goal is to get up one more time than you fall. So, you ate the piece of cake. The perfectionist screams. But the inner teacher, the Stoic student, says something different. Okay, I have fallen. I have learned that office parties are a trigger for me. I've learned that when I'm tired and want to fit in, my resolve is lower. Next time, I will eat a healthy snack before I go, and I will hold a glass of water to keep my hands busy. Now the lesson is over. Let's get back to the plan with the very next meal. What if your setbacks were not verdicts, but simply lessons? Could you learn to see your failures as data, not as drama? The emotional shift here is from brittle, shameful perfectionism to a flexible, compassionate persistence. You stop seeing your journey as a tightrope walk where one misstep means falling into the abyss. You see it as a path through a forest. Sometimes you will trip on a root. The only thing that matters is that you get back up, dust yourself off, and take the next step. There is a level beyond simply accepting our fate. There's a power that lies not just in enduring what happens, but in using it. This principle is the art of turning poison into medicine. Think about how we categorize our days. A good day is one where things go smoothly. The traffic is light. The meetings are productive, people are agreeable. A bad day is one filled with friction. A flat tire, a difficult client, an argument with a partner. This way of thinking makes our inner peace incredibly fragile, entirely dependent on external events aligning with our preferences. We become victims of our own calendars. Now, imagine receiving harsh, unfair criticism at work. Your boss or a client misinterprets your work and questions your competence in front of others. The initial feeling is a hot, sharp sting of injustice. Your heart pounds. Your mind races. The impulse is to become defensive, to lash out, or to retreat into a spiral of shame and self-doubt. You feel wronged, demoralized. This event has officially ruined your day. The emotional conflict is this feeling of victimhood. It's the belief that external events have the power to define our inner state. We see obstacles as roadblocks, pure and simple. The Stoic resolution is to see these moments completely differently. Marcus Aurelius gave us the key when he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He trained himself to see every obstacle not as a roadblock, but as a custom-designed opportunity to practice a specific virtue. The obstacle isn't in the way of your path. The obstacle is your path. Did someone betray your trust? This is a perfect, tailor-made opportunity to practice forgiveness and to reevaluate your own judgment. Are you facing a task that terrifies you? An unmissable chance to practice courage. Are you stuck doing something repetitive and boring? A masterclass in practicing diligence and finding meaning in the mundane. The metaphor is that of an oyster. When a grain of sand, an irritant, an annoyance, an obstacle works its way inside the oyster's shell, it is a source of profound discomfort. The oyster's response is not to curse the sand. Its response is to transform it. It begins to coat the irritating grain, layer by layer, with a beautiful luminous substance called nacre. Over time, this process of transforming an irritant creates a pearl. The oyster has used the very thing that wounded it to create something of value and beauty. So, back to that unfair criticism. The initial sting arrives, but then you pause. You remember the oyster, and you ask yourself a different question. Not why is this happening to me, but what virtue can I practice right now? I can practice patience by not reacting immediately. I can practice wisdom by looking for a single kernel of truth in the criticism, even if it's wrapped in injustice. I can practice courage by addressing the situation calmly and professionally later on. I can practice humility by accepting that my work is not my identity. Can you see how the power shifts? What if every irritation in your life was just a grain of sand waiting to be turned into a pearl? Could your greatest struggles be your greatest teachers? This is the emotional shift from victimhood to agency. You are no longer a passive recipient of good days and bad days. You become an alchemist. You understand that nothing is intrinsically bad. It is all just raw material for the fire of your character. You are no longer just experiencing life. You are actively using life to become a better, stronger, and more virtuous person. The greatest enemy of a meaningful life is the quiet, comforting lie that you have plenty of time. Procrastination, the thief of all our best intentions, is born from this single delusion, the illusion of later. We say, I'll start tomorrow. I'll do it next week. I'll begin when things calm down. We say this because we imagine our future as a vast, open, inexhaustible landscape. This casual attitude toward our own lives devalues the present moment into something disposable. It's a moment to be endured, or scrolled through, or wasted. On the way to that magical future where we will finally become the person we want to be, think of the feeling of a Sunday evening. The weekend, which stretched out before you on Friday with so much promise, has vanished. It dissolved into a blur of errands, chores, and hours lost to the hypnotic glow of a screen. And the one important thing you meant to do, to write, to exercise, to learn, to connect remains undone. A feeling of regret settles in, a low-grade anxiety about a weekend that was spent, but not invested. The emotional conflict is this profound disconnect from our own mortality. We live as if we are immortal, and so we squander the only thing we truly own, the present moment. The Stoic resolution is a constant, urgent, and even joyful awareness of the brevity of life. Tempus fugit, time flies. The philosopher Seneca wrote a powerful essay called On the Shortness of Life. His argument was stunning. Life is not short, but we make it short by wasting most of it. He urged his friends to conduct a ruthless audit of their time. He said we are obsessively frugal with our money and property, but we are outrageously extravagant with our time. The one resource we can never, ever get back. The metaphor is that of a small glass jar. When you are born, that jar is filled with a finite number of grains of sand. Each grain is an hour of your life. Every time you delay a meaningful task for mindless distraction, every time you choose comfort over purpose, you are tipping that jar and pouring irreplaceable grains onto the ground. Seeing it this way, truly seeing it, changes your relationship with now. The Stoic practice is to feel that Sunday evening regret, not just on Sunday, but on Monday morning, on Tuesday afternoon. In every moment, not as a source of anxiety, but as a source of motivation. To constantly and quietly ask yourself, am I using this grain of sand well? Is this task, this distraction, this conversation worthy of a piece of my life? Is this how a person who knows their time is limited would act? What if you stopped waiting for a good time to start living? How would you act differently right now if you truly understood that today is all you are guaranteed? This is the emotional shift from complacent procrastination to an urgent, vibrant purpose. It's not about rushing or being frantic. It's about being present. It's about treating each moment with the respect it deserves. You stop waiting to live the life you want, and you start living it in this moment, in this breath. Because now is all you have. And so we come to the final principle, the foundation upon which all the others are built. A quiet mind. We live in an age of total noise. We are addicted to stimulation, terrified of the silence. Think about the small, empty spaces in your day, waiting for the coffee to brew, standing in line at the grocery store, the 2 minutes you sit in your car after you've parked, but before you get out. What is the immediate, automatic reflex? To reach for the phone. We fill every potential moment of quiet with a podcast, with music, with the endless scroll of a social media feed. We do it because we are deeply uncomfortable with the prospect of being left alone with our own thoughts. This deep-seated restlessness is the emotional conflict. We are what Seneca called good company for others, but bad company for ourselves. This constant barrage of external input creates a relentless inner chatter, a storm of half-formed thoughts, anxieties, and opinions that are not our own. It drains our mental energy. It makes it impossible to hear our own inner voice, to know what we truly want, or to focus on a single intention for any length of time. Our willpower isn't weak. It's just deafened by the noise. The Stoic resolution is the intentional, courageous cultivation of silence. The Stoics called this state euthymia, or tranquility. It is the belief that a good life is fundamentally a serene life. This doesn't mean a life devoid of passion or interaction, but a life where you are not afraid to be with yourself. It means carving out small pockets of time each day to simply be, without input, to go for a walk and leave the headphones at home, to sit in a chair for 5 minutes and just look out the window, to let the mental dust finally settle. The metaphor is a snow globe. All day long, our minds are being shaken. Worries, demands, news, and notifications swirl around like a blizzard of artificial snowflakes, making it impossible to see clearly. The practice of tranquility is simply the act of setting the snow globe down on a table. You don't have to force the snowflakes to settle. You just have to stop shaking. You wait, and slowly, patiently, the chaos subsides, and the beautiful, quiet scene inside is revealed. That automatic reflex to grab the phone when you're in line. The Stoic practice is to notice the urge, to see it for what it is, a fear of stillness, and to gently resist. To just stand there, look around at the world, notice the color of the walls, listen to the sounds of the room, notice the feeling of your own breath moving in and out of your body. Can you be a good companion to yourself, even for 5 minutes? What would happen if you scheduled small appointments with silence throughout your day? This is the final emotional shift from anxious, desperate stimulation seeking to a self-sufficient peace. It is in this cultivated quiet that you finally gain the clarity to set a true intention. It is in this stillness that you find the mental energy to see it through. This silence is the soil from which an unbreakable will can finally grow. And so we arrive here. We have walked this ancient path, from the plains of control to the fortress of our own mind. We started this journey in a place of struggle, in the quiet desperation of a promise broken at dawn. We believed willpower was a muscle, something to be flexed, a war to be won through brute force and sheer grit. We saw ourselves as weak, as failures for every single stumble. And now we stand before the great reversal. The profound, life-altering insight that the Stoics offer us is this: willpower is not the fight. Willpower is the peace that comes after the fight. It is the outcome. It is the quiet stillness in the eye of a hurricane you learn to command. The true battle was never against the craving for sugar, the lure of the screen, or the comfort of the warm bed. The true battle was against the faulty thinking that gave these things their power. The battle was against the delusion that we should control the uncontrollable traffic of life. It was against our mindless habit of opening the gate to every fearful thought and anxious urge. It was against our naive surprise when things inevitably went wrong. It was against the bitterness that chained us to the past, the frantic fear of silence, and the casual disrespect for our own precious time. When you begin to master these inner battles, using these principles as your guide, something extraordinary happens. The need for what we call willpower simply evaporates. The archer who focuses only on her perfect release no longer needs willpower to ignore the wind. The wind has become irrelevant to her task. The gatekeeper who calmly observes the travelers at his post doesn't need willpower to fight them. They are simply visitors he chooses not to admit. The sailor who is prepared for the storm doesn't need willpower to face it. She is merely executing her training. The choice for the better path stops being the hard choice. It becomes the natural choice. It becomes the only choice that makes sense. You are not resisting the bad habit anymore. You have simply lost interest in it. It no longer speaks your language. It no longer aligns with the person you have become. The inner fortress has been built, not with the frantic muscle of willpower, but with the quiet, deliberate placement of wisdom, brick by brick, one conscious choice at a time. Your will is not stronger. It is, for the first time, unbroken. It is whole. It is calm. It is free. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. The alarm rings, but this time, there is no negotiation. There is no war between two wolves. There is just a quiet stillness, a clarity. You get out of bed not because you are forcing yourself, but because it is an expression of who you are. You choose the healthy breakfast, not out of a sense of rigid discipline, but out of a simple act of self-respect. You face the day, not with a knot of anxiety about what might go wrong, but with a calm readiness for whatever comes, knowing that every event, wanted or unwanted, is simply more fuel for the fire. It's another opportunity to practice your philosophy. This is not a fantasy. This is not about motivation or hype. This is the natural result of training your mind. It is the peace the Stoics promised was possible. It's the quiet, unshakable strength that comes from understanding the nature of the world, and more importantly, the nature of your own mind. The war is over. Not because you finally won, but because you realized you were only ever fighting yourself. And you chose to lay down your arms, subscribe for more wisdom,